a series of 3 high bars. And he was an idiot. And he didn't have, a way to get around town. And one was 2 miles, and one was 1 mile from where he lived. And so we made this mercury switch bomb, which is what they said it was. And once you close the bomb, when the light lights up, then the bomb would explode because the mercury slides over to the switch. And so either, now remember, this is closed once you put the top on. So we did these demonstrations of our client riding on a bicycle. And we had a buzzer bomb, but every time the buzzer went off, the bomb would blow up. But this wonderful guy in Whitefish, Montana, who was in charge of IEDs in the Vietnam War, was our bomb expert. And he did all this great analysis of how a person who either walked, rode a bicycle, or took public transportation, oddly enough, could not have gotten from point A to point B without blowing up something. And so, this is the most expensive exhibit that I ever had in my whole life. That exhibit cost $83. This exhibit cost, not counting his time, cost like $400. But it's the most expensive exhibit there is. I want to encourage you not to forget to use your senses. And I love the sense of hearing because I'm noisy. And I stole this from another lawyer who did this great cross-examination about fingerprints. And the examination went like this. Fingerprint expert. Now, in this case, you were able to identify 11 points of comparison that you say match. Correct? That's correct. Now, you would agree with me, would you not, that on the human fingerprint, there are 220 possible points of comparison. Correct? Correct. And so you found 11, and you called them a match. These are the ones you didn't find. It's a good auditory conviction, I think, of fingerprints. And remember, it's hard for jurors to know, how would they know that there was 200? Who's had a client that got identified as weighing 190 pounds, and when they arrested your guy, he weighed 150? Okay, 40-point difference. 30 pounds, 40 pounds. It's often 40 or 50 pounds. So you say, well, officer, she said between 180 and 190 pounds. That's right. You arrested Joe. That's right. He weighs 150. That's at least a 30-pound difference. That's right. The jury goes, oh, it's 30 pounds. Now, if you said to a woman, who gained 30 pounds, she thinks she kind of looks the same. Everything's just a little bit tighter. Guys don't even know they gained 30 pounds, right? And so how do you explain to somebody that the difference of 30 pounds, 40 pounds, 44 pounds? Hey, how about dog food? This is a 44-pound dog food. So you say, officer, the difference was 44 pounds. Well, this is 44 pounds. This is the difference. That's it. It's 40 pounds. Now, I think that's something people know. If you've ever had a PetSmart, you can tell I go regularly. if you go to PetSmart and buy a 40-pound thing of dog food, for me, that's tough. Lori, that's kind of hard. Jane, she just hooked it up there, but it's still a lot. It's still a lot. And I think it's a way that you can make your point. And it's a way you like. I like to use clay, because I'm kind of a big clay person. And I want to show you just a couple more things and we'll be done. I think there are some times when we just don't make it visual enough. There are some times where the prosecution wants A, B, and C to equal whatever they want. When in fact, if you could represent A, B, and C as different colors. So for example, the classic is that Joe knows Linda, Linda knows Gary, and Gary has drugs. Therefore, Joe is a conspirator in a drug thing. So I like to say to jurors, you know, folks, it's like this. This is closing stuff, okay? This is Joe. You've met Joe. You've heard about Joe. He has no prior record. He's not a bright guy, works full-time, blah, blah, blah. That's Joe. And this is Linda. What we know about Linda is she has a drug conviction. She blah, blah, blah. You know, what we know about Linda. And this is Gary. And you all know that Gary's a drug dealer. Gary lives in a nice house. He has lots of money. He's a drug dealer. But what they're saying is because Linda knows Gary and hangs out with Gary, and Joe knows Linda, we'll just smash them all together and make them the same. They're all conspirators. And they think that no matter how if you can smash them together enough and blur the lines, then they'll all be guilty. Because Gary is a drug dealer. But you know what? Your job is to sort that out. And no matter how smashed up they get him, you've got to reach in there and pull Gary out. Because he's not the same. Just because he knows Linda doesn't make him a drug dealer. And you've got to pull it out. And you've got to change. You know, however you're going to do it. But I think if you make it really visual, especially on conspiracy, I think this stuff is great for conspiracy, and now it's really a mess. And maybe it's not that good of an idea. But think about it. Hey! There you go. You're using yourself. What's that? But that's the deal. I mean, you have to kind of practice this stuff. Who was telling me they practiced? Jane, was that you? Yeah. Jane, there you are. Jane had a case that involved a butterfly knife. And she was telling me, she said, see that? That's how I cut myself, practicing the butterfly knife before I used it in court. So take this stuff and use it. Can I have the next picture? A few more pictures of the model. Thank you. Copulating. There they go. See those stairs? Aren't they lovely? Do y'all think I made that myself? I can't make shit. I'm a lawyer because I can't sing, I can't dance, I don't play an instrument, I have no talent, I don't do numbers, and so I can talk. So I'm a lawyer. But I had an engineer, retired engineer, make the stairs. I had other people, school teachers. Anybody married to a school teacher? You should get married to a school teacher. They're great. For no money, they can make anything. There they are. There are the boys. Move on through. There. Don't be afraid to use something for opening. I think opening on sometimes it's hard to tell who's who, and it just becomes a story. Any idea about who my client might be or who my client, my witness might be on this court? Guys in the white hat. They're the guys in the white hat. Two cowboys, David Bird. Dude carried a curry comb in his pocket. Just to comb his hair with a curry comb. He was the sweetest guy. He was great. All right. Couple things I want to tell you before you go, and then we'll get back on. I'm going to leave a bunch of this stuff because look what I have. Rita Storm. This is Rita. Rita might want to wear this. You could do a cross-examination using this stuff. So I found all this cool stuff. This is Rita's hair. Here are her nails. Here are her Trojans. Here are her eyelashes. Here's some rings. There's a key or two. And I brought this stuff down because I thought you might be able to use it. You're going to have an evidence problem. Where's our guy? You're going to have an evidence problem where there's a very bad ID. All about bushy eyebrows, just a pair of glasses. I believe in Mr. Potato Head. I have three. I have Darth Tater. I have three Mr. Potato Heads. And I think in the right case, it's great. Because somebody might say something like, I will never forget those eyes. And you said, you know, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, once you lose the blue shoes on Mr. Potato Head, that's it. I will never forget those eyes. It's the only part that she identified of the man who robbed her. And we understand why that's all she saw. But this doesn't become that. Mr. Potato Head's great, especially in a sort of less serious, more fun. In a murder, use a little discretion. Okay, before I go, don't be afraid to make your own stuff. Here are 3 Larry Baker exhibits that somebody can use. Who's doing Larry Baker? This will be the route. And what does this depict? The distance between the 2 places. Excellent. I'm so glad you got it. Of course, you one good fact. Reward offered. And of course, last but not least, this is the stipulation about the reward. If there is something like a stipulation, blow it up. Blowing things up is your friend. Okay? It's always Woes, I mean that literally and figuratively.